tell us more about your journey and how did you get started in world of the creative technologies and development also?
Yeah, perfect. So I started about 22 years ago, so it's a very long time. So I started when like the internet is just becoming something, especially in my country, Brazil. Uh, and I started because like I always loved design, but took me a while to discover that. So I actually studied development, like computer science, basically. So in fact, I started electronics because I don't know at that point what I wanted to do. So to be honest, I never aimed for this kind of career because it never existed before. We didn't have developers, web designers, and things like that. So we had designers working for print, and then you have like programmers, developers for like really complicated stuff. And then the web became something. I was in the middle of this change, and then I started seeing that my thing wasn't electronics because I'm very bad engineer and I'm very bad on math, to be honest. And then it was also not at that time into the design, the graphic design itself, because I wanted to design something for people to actually use and not like a paper for them to see. And then in the middle of this change, internet became one thing. And then I started learning because at that time I was working on a graphics, like printing things for other clients. Like, and then one day I said, oh my God, I can't support anymore using CorelDRAW. Like it is just annoying. Like must be other ways to have like to draw something. And then I discovered at that time Macromedia Flash. At that time, it wasn't Macromedia, it was Aldous Flash. So
Oh,
before Macromedia buying it. And then one thing that caught my eye was like, for example, to paint a circle in two different parts, you just select half of it and then you put another color. That thing gained because I said it is so annoying to have to cut a vector and then you have two parts to change the color. And then I started learning like Flash and Macromedia Flash at that time, and I became kind of famous doing Macromedia Flash work, which I love because you could join like both parts of the development with the action script, the animations, which I love, and it is like crucial part of my work today, and the visuals, which is like another thing that I love. So I could combine all of those things like in one single thing. And then I created a company, Neotix, which is my company and which I founded. I have other two partners now, but we are like in this journey for about 20 years now. And one thing that happened, like in some point of the history, Macromedia Flash died. So Adobe bought the Flash from Macromedia, and then they started this fighting against the battery usage, the Apple, and etc. So Flash died. And what happened to me, I became kind of orphan because I wasn't advanced enough to code like 3D stuff and things like that at that point. And I also love 3D modeling, which is something that I missed during the history. But like overnight, I was doing 3D development because it's something that I love. My dream was to work like in Pixar, like those beautiful and huge studios, but I'm not good enough. So I said, I need to use this 3D knowledge for something. And then what happened after Macromedia Flash died, my company like followed the path using other tools like JavaScript and etc. But this 3D part and my development part became dormant. So I wasn't doing anything related to development. I was just doing design, basically design services, interface design, and etc. Trying to insert some 3D elements here and there, but those as images or video, never interactive. 6 years ago, I rediscovered like Three.JS because Three.JS was in the beginning like a plugin for Macromedia Flash. So Ricardo Cabello created like a plugin. I think it is Paper, like Paper 3D. So Three.JS started as a plugin for Macromedia Flash. Then Macromedia Flash started this journey to the end. And then Ricardo said, I need to create this for JavaScript then. And he started doing this. And then I saw that, but I said, oh, this is too complicated for me and whatever. About like 5 years passed, and then I rediscovered Three.JS. And when I was visiting this website that is behind you, this homepage, I was like mind blown. What is capable of doing? And I said, I need to learn this. But first, what I tried to hire someone. So I talked to many guys on this industry, in this community of Three.JS, trying to bring them to my company, saying, please come work with me. I'm interested in creating this kind of solution for clients. And they said, man, like I can't work for you because I'm so busy and I have so many things to do and so many clients. So I can't work for you. And I listened this like for many different guys. So I said, there is an opportunity here, because if it is this difficult to learn and to provide services, for sure there will be opportunities in the future. So I started myself learning it. And I tried very hard to learn all by myself, like doing tutorials and videos. And we have a quite good resources on Three.js to learn these days, but it is tough, especially for me, because again, I'm not a developer in a sense that I'm like my formation and my education was towards development. So I'm a designer who can code, but I'm lazy, to be honest. So I need like a video tutorial. I need somebody else doing things that I can watch, and then I can learn, and then I can expand. So that was happened to me.
Wow.
So, and just to finish, like what I ended up enrolling myself in Bruno Simon course, Three.js Journey.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed. So now it has passed 4 years, I guess, since I first enrolled myself in that course, and I never stopped. So in the first day that I saw Three.js Journey, and I was trying to do everything he was presenting, I never stopped doing Three.js since. So I'm doing this every single day, 4 years, 18 hours per day. And like, it is kind of obsession. It is not a work.
Yeah. We can even skip the question about what you're doing when you're not working, because it's quite understandable right now that you're just coding all the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I totally agree with you. Like, I'm myself also a huge fan of 3D, but it comes not from the technology or design, it comes from the gaming industry. And when I first found out the Three.js, it was from the Red Bull Racing website. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I saw it.
It was amazing. And I don't know what about the West, even for the Europe, but in Armenia, where I was actually working at that time as a front-end developer, there is only 3 guys from 3 million people that actually know something about the Three.js. And there was no such many documents and stuff, and we were like spending all hours trying to get to the same point, but by using like 2D stuff or by SVGs and stuff like this, and it was a hell for us. Then about 2 years later, I found out about Bruno, about his course, and same for me. Like, I just started to watch, learn, read, watch, learn, read all the time. But still, I had a huge problem about the easing animations and camera still. I believe it's one of the complicated parts, because you need to experiment all the time to find a good direction, and it's also changing based on your project, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would say this is the trickiest part, because despite you know how to do it, you have to find the right balance between the project, what you want for that project to tell, like a history, and the kind of the animation you can put. And there is a lot of times that you have that doubt between could and should. So you can do almost everything you imagine but should you do everything at once in that specific project? And finding this balance, it is something that is hard. It is not easy. I
Yeah.
can tell you that what happens, like, and what helps me to do what I do, it is my previous knowledge with multimedia flash, because I had to to learn how to animate. In fact, I had to learn how to animate on 3D softwares, on like the Premiere, the After Effects, all of those softwares that are prepared for animation. At that time, I had to do a lot of courses to learn the proper way to animate, like the easing, the proper easing, the kind of effect you want, because in the end, what we are trying to do is to tell a story using
Yeah.
interactivity. And for that, the animation plays like a fundamental role.
Mm.
But you need to use your tools in a proper way. Because if you animate too much, that is like not beautiful. And if you don't have any animation, it feels like static. So
Yeah.
finding this balance is tricky.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree with you. But where are you finding the inspirations for your works?
Ah, man, this so these days, because like I've done so many things, I have a lot of things in my mind. So when I see, or when I imagine something, it is almost like a conduit. I need to let it flow. So I have ideas and I have things in my imagination, but all of that, those things that are in my mind, comes from references that I saw over basically 40 years that I am now. So 43 years. So I'm seeing references at least for 20 years. So there is a lot of references in my mind. But like these days, what I do a lot, first, gaming. Like it is the first main resource for me for animations, for effects, for interactions, because the gaming industry, they like pay a lot of attention to those small details, because for the gaming industry, this is a requirement. So, like on a website, nobody cares if the button has a like fancy hover or not. But for a game, that is like the difference between selling and not selling. So everything needs to be like small details. And also, gaming is my first reference these days. Second, I would say life. Like sometimes I'm on the park and I'm seeing something and I can see like a leaf dropping and I say, oh, this could be, how can I recreate this using Three.JS and like GSAP or
Yeah.
even 3D softwares? So, and of course, other websites. So we have so many things today. I would say the challenge, it is not to invent something these days, because most of the things you can imagine, it is already there. Somebody else created, to be honest. The point is for you to get the right reference and make that unique, make that yours, like put your name on that.
Mhm.
And this requires experimentation. So I would say for those that are starting, the first thing and the most important one is try, do a lot, like do a lot of mistakes. So animate everything you can, put everything together, and then you start sending to friends, and you will notice the difference. People say, oh, this is too much, or like they got confused. So we start finding the right balance. But trying, it is the first step of the journey, I would say.
Yeah. And always remember about the performance, especially when it comes to 3D stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the one point that I will mention. When you experiment with everything at once, what happens? Nothing works. When I started doing Three.js, I was in this mood. So I tried to put every single post-processing that I could find, because I said I will create the ultimate game experience. And this was like 5 years ago.
Mm.
Not even the computers or Three.js was this advanced that we have right now. So the processors are much better these days. They can support more post-processing things. And
Mhm.
again, we have web GPU like on the edge, like and on the corner. So this will be
Yeah.
the next thing for our industry for sure. But until there, we need to deal with a lot of post-processing and a lot of issues with the performance. And when you experiment with everything, nothing works. Then you need to find other ways. Like you need to fake a glow, you need to fake a volumetric light, because you need to find other ways to. And you know what? What is interesting? The gaming industry has been doing this for decades, and it is working. So when you remember all of those PlayStation 1 and 2 games, they were doing those things at that time. And so all of their techniques still applies for us on the web. Like we are right now in the PlayStation 3 era, I would say, of the web from the quality point of view. And with web GPU, I think we will jump for PlayStation 4 and 5. Sometimes we see websites using PlayStation 4 quality on the browser right now. But with the web GPU, we will have PlayStation 5 for sure. And then this will change the game.
Yeah, I think what they call right now, what they call basically us who do the Three.JS, React Three Fiber, and other stuff like this, are creative developers, right? It's a new term that like directly says that if you do the design, if you know where to find your inspiration and you can navigate yourself between the animation world, then you're a creative developer. And if you're a creative developer, I think it's a huge gap right now, and maybe another 5 years maximum because of the AI, and it helps us a lot. We will have the creative development will be one of the foundational roles in the industry from my perspective, or for where I can see, because everyone at some point tired about static stuff. Even if it's not a very complicated animations, everyone want to be different. And the best way to be different is to find an inspiration and do some 3D stuff, right?
Yeah. So I would say these days, the 3D, it is becoming something like important because the way you can show things, it is shorter than a video. So for example, if you have a product and you want to show the client how this can be changed according to your preferences, you can do a video. But that is also not an experience. That is a video that people watch, and people has less and less time to see some things and to interact with them. So dropping a 3D element that they can actually play with and change themselves, this can engage more. So I think this is all about engaging. And let me tell you that the internet suffered a lot from the SEO targeting things, because everything becomes so SEO oriented, so performance. It needs to be like searchable basically, and then things become boring. So you enter in a lot of websites, the biggest one, and they are basically for a robot to read. So there is no emotion, no connection, no audio, no interaction. So you just scroll up and down with 4 paragraphs and that's it. So you cannot engage with a brand and with a product like this. So 3D will be more used, I would say, in the future. I would say out in some countries, it is already like a big thing. Not in my country, like in Brazil, nobody talks about 3GS. Like I have like 4 or 5 friends that are really working in this with other companies, and they are not working for Brazilian companies. So I only have one client working with 3D technologies in the browser in Brazil, which is a global brand. So in the end, it is almost like they are not from Brazil. But I can see other countries with a lot of like investments in this front. So then I think this will happen more and more, especially now that Apple entered in this game, like with VR and etc. So hopefully we'll have more work.
By the way, about the work, we had a chat recently, and you said that there is a situation in Brazil, and you had to lay off some of your staff. Can you tell us more about the situation? Because especially when we are talking about the creative development market, like how you navigate between your clients, how you're finding them, what was the scenario of these?
Yeah. So like that is very specific, I would say, with the way my company works, because like there are the things that I'm doing personally that it is connected with my company. But again, for Brazilian market, this is not the kind of service that I'm providing because they are not searching for this kind of development. So I still have members in my team and I still have clients and I'm still doing stuff especially in Brazil and for non-Brazilian companies using Three.JS and 3D technologies. But
Mhm.
what happened, like after pandemic, like before pandemic, to be honest, I had more than 50 employees, like more than 50 colleagues working with me, like under my agency. And and I had like one big office, like in a big city, like in Brazil, São Paulo, and what and was great. Then pandemic came, and then I had to close the office because it doesn't make any sense to have an office and not being able to
Yeah.
like be there to work because of the pandemic. And then what happened? Like we saw this increase in investments because all the companies went digital from day to night, and they had to invest on technology to basically create digital operations. So we helped a lot of companies doing that. And during that period, we actually grown like our numbers.
Mhm.
What happened after pandemic? Those companies said, okay, now I already have a digital operation. I need to go back to the office. So I need basically the money back. So they started to like basically laying off the services. Like, so a lot of smaller companies left and decided to create internal teams to work with the things I've been doing as a company for them. And this is what it is happening until this day. So more and more companies are creating internal digital agencies or digital services,
Okay.
which, to be honest, I think it is a mistake because this can like seems like an economy, and you will have all the intelligence internally. But the problem is you have the people, but you don't have the knowledge itself. Like you don't have the culture of the digital to provide really like different things. So they will do things, they will be guided towards like something. But that those companies, they don't have this digital culture to guide those people. So like they are very good and very talented, but they are always both waiting for instructions or limited to theirs like uh, imaginations, like not theirs, but the company limits only the imagination. And that's why nothing comes out from those things, from those companies really, really different. So they are doing the everyday work, like launching campaigns in a very default way. So this is the moment I can see Brazil and also some other countries are facing. So it is a little bit, I would say, of recession after pandemic and this culture of let's make everything internally and not hire any services. The impact on my services is that I had to shrink to survive because I don't have that amount of clients that I had before to make sense have a big team. But this is like a roller coaster of being an entrepreneur, I would say. This is always like ups and downs. So this will change again in the future when they notice that their clients are requesting for more engaging experiences. They will search again for other things that are out. And hopefully I will be here. That's exactly what I'm doing with Three.JS. So I'm putting out a lot of things, new things, components, ideas to show people, show companies, show like creative guys what it's possible. Because when they search for references and they find something that I did that my company is doing, that is like automatic connection. I can create this engagement towards their imagination.
Yeah.
It is so perfect situation when they imagine something and they try to search for it and they find something that I did that is exactly what they want, because that is like an automatic engagement. They said, I need to do it with you because you already have it. So it is easier. So that is the perfect timing.
I totally agree with you. Like personal branding can be that bridge that will bring you in the future that the word of the clients, let's say it this way.
Yeah, exactly. But the challenge is to find the balance, like which is in my case, I cannot say that I'm finding this balance because again, I am obsessed. When I start something, I need to do it like over and over until and I would say I'm never satisfied. So I'm always trying something new and I always have like 10 more things to learn. So I'm working like a horse, to be honest. I shouldn't, but I'm doing it because I love. I love gaming, I love 3D, and I love coding, and I love design. I can do four things at the same time out of pleasure. So I'm doing it. I'm planting seeds, to be honest, and I'm getting results. So a lot of clients that I already have right now, they are with me just because of these seeds that I planted.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to find the balance. So I'm not the right person to tell you, but you should find the balance. Have a personal life, which is in my case is not that much the case.
Well, most of the time, obsession takes everything, right? You either do it all the time or you will eventually fail, especially when it comes to the technologies, the edge technologies like Three.JS. You have to learn all the time. You have to experiment. There is no other way.
Yeah, no, no, and it is endless. Like it is endless. I feel that I like when I work with other guys more experienced than me, then like I start that feeling of my God, I don't know anything. So my God, I need to hurry up. And then when I look to people that are starting, they look at me at the same way, saying, "Oh my God, I need to rush." But like, it is a never-ending process. So like, this will be forever.
An infinite loop. And
Yeah.
but what about the AI? What do you think? Like when it comes to the clients that we just talked about, at some point they will replace the stuff with AI. And then, for example, it's another scenario, I guess. They will replace the basic stuff with AI, and then they start to looking for people like you, like other creative developers, for the creativity part. And that's at the same time a good thing, but it's, I guess, a bad thing for the beginners also, because it will be a huge competition again.
Yeah. No. So what is frightening to me, it is like the speed of this thing. So I imagine, for example, that let's say ChatGPT, that will help us at some point to create, for example, Three.JS projects.
Yep.
Man, that thing is a beast. Like it is creating things way better than I can do. Like I drop ideas there, and the code that comes out of my quest is way better than my things. And actually, some of the things are actually my code. Sometimes I find reference. So it is crazy. But like things are moving so fast. And I agree with you, for beginners, that is both like a blessing and a curse because you can have this thing to help you to increase your knowledge and to make results faster, but everybody can do it. So
Yeah.
I agree that in the future, the difference is, again, how to solve this puzzle because everything is possible. And at the same time, nothing is possible if you don't know how to combine those things. So you need to grab all of those possible ideas and make it tangible in something that can connect like the product and the services with the audience. And this is something that like the AI cannot do. And even the client, like my clients, they cannot do. So that's why a creative developer role, I think it is so important because what we do basically is look the bigger picture. So we see the needs for that project. We see the difficulties, and we basically solve a problem with the design, not the visual design. We solve a problem using design as a process to solve problems. And then based on that, we create digital solutions and digital experiences. This is something that it is hard for an AI to do. Hopefully, for some years, because I wish to have time to work on something, but things are moving so fast that I will not be surprised. So we already saw some tools like Dora.run.
Yes.
Dora can create like designs coded with Three.JS inside out of a text, like create a website for a brand, a cellular phone, new generation. And the things just splits out a design with a 3D element. So that thing is frightening. But again, the possibilities are endless, but somebody needs to pick what is right for that specific audience, for that specific case. And for this, a judgment is needed. And AI, it is still not the best on judgment. So hopefully we will have work. Hopefully. Again, I don't know what they are doing, but let's see.
We should thank Dora that they are still in closed beta and not a lot of people had an access to it. Because that will be a mess in the market. Because eventually we'll go to Dora, do something, then they will want to change something. They will break everything. They will come to developers, say, you know what, guys, we have everything, but we need you to change this slide thing. But to change that slide thing, you have to refactor all the code base.
Yeah, man. This is exactly what is happening right now. So I got some clients' requests is specifically for this kind of thing. So they both find code on the web, or they use some kind of tool or AI, and they bring me pieces of things, everything kind of broken, and say, can you just make it work? And I say, no, like it is impossible because I need to rebuild from scratch to make it work. So it is a mess. But yeah, this will be a normal process from now on, I would say.
Wow. But okay, we've talked about the Three.JS technology a lot, but there is one more question that, for example, I had when I just started, and I was frightened about it. But when I just start to learn to read the books, I get it. What about the math? There's this myth in the market that if you want to do 3D stuff, you should know a very good math. Is this true? For your opinion?
Man, I would say it is true, but it's not a limitation, because I would say I'm the best example you can find. Like, I can't explain to you how bad I am on math. I cannot remember the division tables, like the multiplication. I don't know nothing about numbers, angle, Cartesian planes, everything that is required to be a developer, especially a 3D developer. I don't have it. So, but that is not a limitation, because what you can do, you can play with the numbers. So that is the magic behind visual things. If I had to do what I do without seeing anything, it is impossible. For example, how I code shaders. What I do, I go to a shader that is already there. I'm sorry. And basically, I break everything. So I get all the numbers that makes no sense, and it is 0.5. Let me put 50 here, and let's see what happens. And then everything breaks. And oh, this control this, and this control that. So most of the cases, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just playing with numbers, trying to discover what they are composing in the final image. And then eventually I understand. So this is how I created the lens flare. All the components that I released recently, they are all based a lot on math. But all of that complicated math, it is basically out of trial and error. Takes a lot of time, but that's my way of work. And so I feel people should not be afraid or limit themselves because of the math. They can do it even if they don't have a very good solid basis on math. If they have it, there will be another class of developer, like the guy that I'm like working right now, Nate, in 8 programs on Twitter. That guy is just like unimaginable. So you have no idea when he put things like his hand on my code, it completely transforms it. Like he can write 50 lines of my code in like 3 lines. It is that magical because he's so good on math that he can actually understand all the numbers that are there. I can't. So I do my best, but of course there are guys way better than me. But this is not like a limitation on my side. I can reach the same results with another path. And math is basically this. So you have better ways, more optimized ways, but you can find other ways always. So I just discovered recently something that, for example, my teachers were trying to explain to me on college, and I never got it. That like if you divide a number with something or multiply that same number with a smaller number, the result is basically the same. And I said, that is mind-blowing. How can be a division and a multiplication give me almost the same result? That never made sense to me until I tried with shaders. Because when I have, for example, a very strong effect on shader, and I want to slow it down or make it less intense, I can divide that thing for example, 2, or I can multiply by 0.2. And I get the same result. I get the same less intense effect. So I'm sure there's a name on this for this on math, but I have no idea. The only thing that I know it is that if I divide by 2 or multiply by 0.2, I get the same result on the shader. And that is enough for me. So I don't have this presumption that I will understand math one day. To be honest, I gave up on that. But I'm happy that I can code my shaders and they work, and that is great.
You just replace it with experimenting, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think people should be afraid of math. But yeah, if they can have a very good solid basis on math, that will help a lot.
Well, can we say that the math is the most struggled thing for your career path in 3D, or is there something else?
I would say my life, man. Like math, it is always in the middle of my things. It is really important, but this is just something that I never understood. And like I can understand the shader, but I cannot understand some of the math behind that thing. So math is in the middle of my life. But yeah, it is the one thing that I struggled most, especially when I decided to go into in this shader path. Because to be honest, like we reached a point where 3D on the web, especially for those markets that are using this every day, when you go for hours, for example, that is trivial these days. There is basically no website on hours that is not using something in 3D. Not always Three.JS and not always as an interactive 3D, but basically every single thing we can see that is interactive, that is engaging, is using 3D. Like that, it is kind of mandatory. And for this kind of thing, like to have this kind of result, it is crucial that like that you have this 3D knowledge, like under your like in your experience. So you need to experiment with this at least to be considered like a developer, like or a creative developer, not a developer, because people are always like my developers when I was working with them, they said, I don't want you to learn Three.JS. This is too specific. There is no use case for this. So why I will learn this and then I will get out of job what I do with this knowledge. So, and I kind of agree with them, but this is something that I just love and I had to learn. And I'm trying my best to make it a life, like to make a company around this, which I am succeeding, thanks God, but it's not easy. So this is a kind of request that I get all the time, especially for beginners. how can I start? Like, how can I make a career on this? What can I do? Because they search for like for placements on companies and they can't find. Like it is very rare that you have a company with a position open for creative development. So it is very hard to find this kind of position. You have sometimes WebGL developer or sometimes creative like developer maybe, but most of the cases they want a generalist that are capable of doing this kind of thing. And this is also very difficult because if you have someone that is, for example, really good on backend or even front end, really good on React, it is unlikely that this person will have time to learn Three.JS, for example,
Yeah.
because if he's not doing this as a daily basis, he will first forget a lot of things, and second, will not put in practice. And third, you need to always learn new things because every single day we have new things to learn. So that's why it is so difficult. It is overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, it's you just described my current situation. I obsessed with 3D, but I have a very small time on a day to jump on it, to experiment with it, and to just like motivate myself. What I was trying to do, like I was creating new projects all the time, like small applications and stuff, and I tried to, okay, what kind of animation I can put here in a 3D way? Like I can learn shaders here. Okay, let's try to do some shaders here. Or, oh, okay, what about the optimizations? Maybe I could make something here. But again, like it's maybe 2, 3 hours a day. Most of the times it's an hour or half an hour. And there are days where I just don't have time to do it, or I'm just so exhausted that my mind can't even look at the codes anymore.
Yeah.
Especially when you are mixing right now, the other side of it is the Web3 technologies that are very hyped right now, and everyone creating new libraries and stuff, doing some crazy things, and you have to be always keep your hand on the pulse also on that side. And it makes you in a situation where you're like you just want to slice yourself into 2 pieces to be able to learn both.
Yeah, yeah, and it is impossible. Like that's why, like when I became and then when I started this journey, what I did, I completely left like part of my company. So because I was doing a lot of things at that time, so I was doing client service like management. I was doing some like design services with my team. When I started this journey with Three.JS, I said to my business partners, I need to basically leave for a year. So I will be here every single day. I will participate on the meetings. I will help as best as I can, but I need to learn and I need to put my hands on code. And for me, it was even harder because I wasn't a developer. So I started from design. Like when Bruno Simone started explaining how NPM works, how install the package management. Nothing of that thing, those things were on my mind because I was doing web development when it was like 1998, like 2000. So we never had those tools at that moment. We are using FTP servers
Yeah.
to serve a website. So now everything is different, completely modernized. And I had to learn all of that and Three.JS. So it was overwhelming. But what I did, I I had to split like my life. And basically I never split it. I said, I will jump here and these things you guys need to take care of. That's the beautiful part of having business partners because I could do it. If I had to manage my company without them, I will never be able to do what I did because I had to be fully immersed in this world. But yeah, right now what I'm facing, it is exactly what you're describing. So I get a lot of people talking to me about Web3, and I said, man, I'm completely not aware of anything related to Web 3.0. And to be honest, I can't. Because if I try to learn this, I feel that I will explode. Because everything that I know on Three.js will be lost. And then I would never reach a point that I can actually do something with Web 3.0. So, and I know this is the future. This will hit me. But I'm hoping for the best, that until there we will find solutions and people and AIs that can do all the complicated stuff, and we can actually use this without like me jumping out of the 3D world to learn this.
Well,
But that's because I can do it. Again, I'm not hired in any company. I have my own company and I can do this kind of decision, which can be wrong, but in the end, it's my call.
yeah.
That is completely different when you have like someone above you telling what to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like, oh man, it's complicated, you know. But I believe that when it comes to Web 3.0 or 3GS, I believe they're going to coexist despite all the facts, because even especially in Web 3.0, the all of these guys, all of these future generations are too modernized. They need all this engagement, and they can't do this without us, basically.
Yeah,
So it doesn't
exactly.
matter, you know, the Web 3.0 good or not. You just need to know something. Well, will it be 3GS or will it be Web 3.0? Or you can find something in the middle. You're just good to go. That's it.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah.
another thing that I wanted to ask you, I just come up to this recently while I was working one of the websites. Do you think that spline is a cheat code actually?
No, man, I would say that thing is incredible because that I can feel Spline more like a 3D software in a browser, collaborative, than like a 3D tool to build websites. So you can do it and you can get pretty good results out of that. But the main point is to be creative in the browser itself to create things. Like, so the recent launch for the particle system, man, that is mind blowing because you don't have that thing even on Blender. When you try to work on with particles in many 3D softwares, and I know a bunch of them, like Maya, 3D Studio, Blender, I used all of them over these 20 years, I bet you. It is really complicated to do a really good result and quick results out of a simple interface. What Spline is doing is empowering people to be creative in a source, like in a browser. So they can do it as a team and they can decide what kind of particle will work. That is amazing because before this, the process would be first finding references, two, finding a guy who can do this either on 3D or After Effects, so they can approve this kind of creative path with somebody else, probably with their clients. And then after that, with the references and the video, they will come for us, a creative developer, saying, here, this is what I imagine to do. But I don't know if this is possible or not on the web. Now they can do it themselves in a live tool. So they know it is possible. That is really like powerful. And but again, the kind of the result we have there, like visual, it is kind of default. Right? It is endless possibilities, but it is still default. But I'm sure they are working toward shader and something like this to power people to compose, especially the visual results, with other things to expand that. It is already possible. So you can create things on Spline and then export as React 3 Fiber project or Vanilla 3JS. And then on top of that, you can create your own things. That is already very powerful. But again, having an interface, I would say that is the one thing that is holding everyone. It is an interface because we don't have it. So for 3JS,
Yeah.
you have the 3JS editor that you can place things, but it's not 100% the result you can get.
Yeah.
Then like to actually see things, you need to code and see. And that is time consuming. Having an interface like in real time, that is a requirement, I would say, for the future. Because first, that will enable more people to learn this faster and get faster results. And second, for those wanting to expand the possibilities, they already have a good base. So like for me, example, I have projects that sometimes I don't have to do many complicated stuff. I just need to replace things on the screen. So I need to replace elements. That is a pain because you need to create a level interface. Then you need to attach those things to be changed on that interface. So you need to create your own user interface to manipulate the things you created, or you change on Blender and re-export, change and re-export. That is also very time consuming. We have other tools that are like appearing, like Triplex, like Svelte, Theater.js, not Svelte. Svelte is another thing which is amazing. We should talk about it. But Theater.js, Triplex, and like those are basically editors that we can use to manipulate our own scenes using like an IDE and like VS Code. But then you can see at the same time something that you can manipulate and save, and that will save your changes into the code. That is magical. So in the future, I think this will happen more and more often. But I can see Spline like the biggest competitor for creating an interface for us to deliver results faster. But I don't think people will use that as a code base, to be honest. So because I can see this happening all the time. So people create things there, and what they try to do is to grab a lot of iframes and put all of the iframes in one page, and then nothing works because you start competing with the performance because you have the cursor that is another render frame. Then you have like an audio with another render frame. Then you have a canvas with Spline trying to survive in that environment. So nothing works. So it is possible to use a Spline in a production, as we see all the time, but it needs to be made for that and not just a piece of the puzzle. It needs to be created to be the piece of the puzzle, not one of the pieces. But yeah, sorry, I talked too much.
No, it's fine. It's fine. What was the technology name? Not the theater one.
The Triplex.
Triplex. What is it?
Triplex. Yeah, Triplex is like an editor. Like they call it a React tree fiber editor. So basically, you can open every project you have on React tree fiber, and then that will open on an interface that you can tweak the numbers. That will read all of your props. So if you create a component that has, for example, number of particles, that number of particles will appear on interface, and then you can see your project running like in a browser with the gizmos. So you can click on the particle system and change the number and adjust in real time. It is so beautiful. Like if you don't know, you should try. I know the guy, the creator, and again, it is not fully finished, but for TS project, TypeScript projects, it works really, really great. For JavaScript projects, which is in my case, what I'm doing, it is working really, really great, but it sometimes cannot read all the properties because you need to specifically tell the properties, which is an advantage of TypeScript. TypeScript, you are forced to declare the props, and then his software can learn and read everything. But it is an amazing piece of software. So that will over time be more and more like useful for us. And it's free, so everybody should try.
Wow. Well, it can be a huge startup from that. It can be the beginning of a huge startup eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
The technology is something that everyone needs, both developers, management, QA, sales, everyone to just play around. So
like it is perfect because most of the time the clients also wants to play with the numbers. Like at least in my case, they want to like, can I tweak this color? Can I change the amount of particles? And I say, yes, we need to do a live for that. Because if I had to enable the debug interface for you, that will be extra work on my side, so I can enable you to do it. So we can do it together using the code, or I can create an interface, but then that will basically cost more. So they said, no, never mind. With this kind of tool, I can give this power to them, and they can tweak everything and just send me back the changes.
Yeah.
And those changes will be automatically like on my code. Yeah, so that is powerful.
Yeah.
One other thing that I mentioned about Throughout. I don't know if you heard about this.
No, I didn't hear about it. What is it?
So Throughout is like the Svelte Three.JS version. Like we have React Tree Fiber, which is the React renderer for Three.js. We have Throughout. So Throughout is a Three.js renderer for Svelte. And like I don't have too many information about this because I know what I saw over Twitter, basically. I never used in my production cases. But what it's beautiful and what it is like appealing to me, like in the end, the thing is outputting like divs in the browser. So if you want to inspect like an element, you just right click, and then on that window for Chrome, you can see all the 3D elements as they were divs. So you have canvas, then you have box, then you have material, then you click, and then you can change the numbers in the browser without tweaking them on the code or creating a user interface. That is mind blowing. I can't wait for like play with that.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah. So every day we have new things. Like I told you, it is impossible to know everything because every day we have new things. And we are talking about like just the first like step.
Just the layers, I guess. And
yeah,
to finalize the concept of it, for those who want to jump into the industry, there should be some kind of a backpack of tools or technologies they need to learn. From your perspective, what are those technologies? Like, of course, the JavaScript, at least some point of it, Three.js, then eventually they'll jump on the React Tree Fiber because they had a lot of cool, fancy stuff. What else? GSAP, maybe?
Yeah, so I would say all of those that you mentioned, but actually what I would recommend before jumping in the 3D on the browser real time, I would suggest 3D softwares for real. Like, because what I can feel is that most of the developers trying to do things on Three.js never touched a Blender before or any 3D software. And that is a huge problem because when we talk about scenes and lights and cameras and how everything can be composed, because they don't have an interface to play with, that doesn't make any sense for them. So when I say move the camera 5 units left, they have no idea what will happen because they don't have this spatial orientation. If you have a 3D software on your hand, you will understand that moving the camera here, because you can actually move the camera yourself with your mouse, you can see the difference. So learning any 3D software basics before jumping inside Three.js and React Tree Fiber stuff, I would say it is a requirement because that will make your life much easier to learn this kind of thing. Then, of course, GSAP, I will add shaders. I would say this is like a natural step. This is happening for me. Every time that I try to do something on Three.js right now, I need to deal with shaders. First, because for some things, I need custom code to get performance. So for example, when you have a really complex word with a lot of things, if you use Three.js default materials, that will jeopardize performance. There is no other way because Three.js default materials are prepared to deal with a lot of things abroad, like to work out of the box. But when you try to build a word with that, with a lot of materials, trying to render textures and lights all the time, the thing just don't work. So you need to deal with shaders, for example, to fake glow, to fake global illumination, to fake screen space reflection. So you have techniques on shaders to do this kind of thing that can squeeze performance out of the beautiful things. So shader, I would say, is a requirement, which is actually which is frightening me at this moment because I'm trying to learn shaders, to be honest. Still, I'm in this journey 2 years. So I'm doing Three.JS all the time, and I'm doing everything you can imagine with shaders in parallel, basically at night. When I finish my workday, I jump into the study mode for shaders at night. And it isn't possible to end like the possibilities. Every time that I learn something new, I feel that I have 100 more to learn. And then now we have Web GPU, which will not support the same language. So they say it is similar, but when I try to read a Web GPU shader, that is so complex. So just to be, so people can be aware, Three.js will support Web GPU. Like it is already supporting it, but not fully. But people, like the guys behind Three.js, is really, really working hard so we can have a Web GPU version of Three.js that we can replace the renderer. And for us, that will be simple as replacing the renderer. So instead of saying renderer equals new WebGL and the renderer, we will say Web GPU. And hopefully this will do the trick. And everything else should work the same. So all the materials, everything should work the same. The point is when you want to expand this with shaders. So it will be, I would say, very hard to have like a transpiler from WebGL to WebGPU that can support all the shaders we can write right now with WebGL to work on WebGPU. And also, if we do so, we cannot get the beautiful performance we can get out of the Web GPU because you need to be more precise and more specific so we can get better performance and to expand the possibilities. To have like PlayStation 5 quality on the browser, you need to learn how to talk the language of Web GPU. And that is another language. I need to learn everything again. So I'm trying to understand WebGL, and now it comes, and shaders, of course, and now it comes something completely new that I don't know if I will be capable of. But again, I will try my best, as I've been doing the last 5 years.
Did you already read the Book of Shaders?
I would say sometimes at this point.
Okay.
And I'm always coming back. But like, again, because it is really math-based, I only can understand when I need something specific. So for example, the FBM and the noise functions,
Yes.
I read that and I could understand anything. So I said, okay, I know they exist, but I have no idea how can this be useful for me. So I don't want to make a noise on the screen. Okay, then I needed to animate like trees bending to the wind. And for that, what we need, a noise. And then I came back to Book of Shaders to really learn with something like with a need, say, let's pay attention now and see how we can do noise. So that's my way of learning. But like Book of Shaders is just such like a beautiful thing. It is incredible. Like the amount of knowledge we have there to use in the many creative ways. It is just amazing.
So you said that you jump on a shader, especially on the noise part, when you need tree shaking animation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because let me explain to you what happens, what I discovered, what I tried. I tried to export the trees animated bending to the wind from Blender because I said, I don't have too many trees, that will work. And I tried. And the FPS goes like 10 FPS. So I said, okay, that will not work. Then I had to learn how to create instances because if you export a lot of geometries from Blender, that will crash your performance because you have a lot of triangles to deal with. So I discovered the instances. So I had to learn how to bring one tree and then replicate on Three.js. So Three.js can create a lot of trees like a grass system. That worked. But then how can I animate trees? Because I don't have access to the animations for the instances because I can animate only one. Then I need to discover how to animate instances. And then it was like another week or 2 weeks to learn how to animate instances. That is when math gets me because animating instances is really, really hard for somebody like me that is not aware of math. Then I finally got it with a lot of help. I had to do research, ask for friends, and like, please explain to me, give me examples. Finally, I got it working. Then I had to learn how to animate with a noise because I could animate them like up and down, but that is not what I want. I want like seamless bending to the wind animation. Then shaders, a vertex shader, you can animate like basically an instance and all the other instances will follow. So you can get all the instances points in space and animate the vertex shader instead of the fragment shaders. As we do with the colors, changing colors on the model, you can do the same with the vertices. And you can do the same with the instances of those vertices. And that's beautiful because for the GPU and the CPU, it's like you are animating one single tree bending through the wind. But all the trees, like in that case, all the 300 trees that I had were animating through the wind. It is actually a project that is behind you, the Windland. That
Yeah.
is the first time that I did this.
But it's not open source, right? You didn't push it on GitHub. I didn't see it.
The Windland, no, I can't remember. Yeah, but the wind thing, I have some examples there. So I have a scroll,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
a scroll project. That scroll is using the same technique. So it's a vertex shader being distorted with the mouse, and I'm manipulating the instances of those vertices using Three.JS. But yeah, the tricky part is things are so specific that sometimes you have the example on your hand and you cannot use this because you don't understand they are the same. That happens to me all the time. So, for example, for the trees, if I had searched for grass instead of animated trees, I would find the exact same example because the way you animate grass, it is the same for the trees. The only difference is the mesh.
Yeah.
And if we search for grass 3JS, you will find a bunch of examples. If you search for animated trees instances 3JS, you find nothing. So that is the tricky part.
And eventually you will go and ask ChatGPT. He will give you a code. You'll try to execute it and you'll fail.
Yeah, for those complex stuff, like usually it is really rely on the model itself. So ChatGPT can give you a generic example, and sometimes it works, but when you replace the model, everything breaks because you need to understand the coordinates, the way your model was done actually on Blender, because sometimes shaders and vertex shaders, they use UVs to distort the model. So if the UVs are wrong on Blender, even if your code is right, your model will not animate the way you expect because the UVs are wrong. And if you don't know 3D softwares to manipulate the UVs, you can't do anything being a developer. There is no way you can, like, of course, there is a way you can manipulate the UVs, but that will be a nightmare. It is so much easier to open Blender, correct the UVs, and then export again the model. But you need to know that it's possible. And I keep saying this, the only way you discover these things is by practicing. Even with Bruno Simon course, which is overwhelmingly complete. Like he covers everything you can imagine. Even with that amount of knowledge, like 70 hours of video, you have a lot of things to cover that it's not covered on this course. So the only way is to discover, and to discover, you need to practice. And to practice, you need to create your own challenges, because if you expect somebody else to ask you or a client, that will never happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the essential point of learning something new, right? It doesn't matter if it's 3GS or it's another technology or it's even a business modeling or something else. You just need to experiment all the time to get to the point where you have the fundamental understanding what's going on behind the scenes. Actually.
No. And you need to have problems. So just to give an example, like yesterday, I lost 6 hours on a project that was done, was working, but it was with a performance problem. And then I said, I have no idea what is happening. And look, I'm doing this 18 hours per day, five years every single day. And even with this amount of time, I got in a point that I said, I don't know what I can do. Like, I have no idea why this model is freezing. So the client was opening the link, and then browser said, crashed. I can't work. So there is no console log. There is no error. Their error was basically out of memory. And the model the client gave me was 5 million triangles and 50 megabytes. I could optimize the model to be 6 megabytes and 200 triangles, the same model, which is unimaginable. But because I have a lot of knowledge on Blender, I know how to fake stuff. I know how to manipulate the model, bake things. So I did everything I could. And then I got a model from 50 megabyte to 6 megabyte. And I said, I'm covered. This will work on every device. No. And then took me 6 hours to discover that I actually missed one single texture, 8K texture on that Blender file. Because I use a lot of tools to optimize the model, when I export from Blender, I got a 30 megabyte file. And then I use the tools to optimize to get 6 megabytes. And that is okay. But the problem is, and I forgot about that, browsers on mobile has a limitation on the size of the texture that the GPU can receive. It is 4K at maximum. If I pass an 8K texture, that will crash. I never remembered that, and I never discovered after 6 hours of investigation and seeing the profiler on the browser to find the texture. And it was like a very small object in the scene with a full 8K texture that I forgot about it. So that is the process you need to do over and over because you need to face those problems to discover. Hopefully, I'll not forget again about 8K textures after 6 years of my life spent on something that simple, but this kind of thing happened.
Oh my goodness. What will be your advice actually for the creative developers?
Including this one that try a lot, like an experiment a lot. Like this, I would say it is a requirement.
Yeah.
I would say also, like, don't limit the ideas of what you can imagine from what you can see. Because I can see creative developers sometimes say, I never saw this, so this seems to be impossible. But what happens is, most of the cases, you just need to find the proper timing, the proper way of doing so. When you work with a company, like I'm not talking about working alone. So because when we work alone, basically we are our limit. So we can do whatever we want with the time that we have. And okay, but when you work in a company or with a team, this will happen a lot. People will reach you and say, can this be done? Like never ask, like never answer no. Like you always need to do research. And sometimes during the research, you find other ways and other paths the creative guys never imagined, and they are much simpler. So that is the advice. So don't limit what you can imagine from what you can see, because not everything that can be done, it is out there. So there are rooms for new things that you can create, even with the things that we already have there, like on the board. And I would say third, study all the time. There are so many new things. Like we need to spend at least, like I would say, 1 hour of the day just researching, just seeing what is happening. like in one advice is to use the hashtags. Like this is something that changed my life at the beginning, because when I started all of this, if it wasn't for the Three.JS journey hashtag and the Three.JS hashtag in the community, I will never like be successful, to be honest, because the things that I learned after Bruno Simon course and everything that I discovered and I keep discovering, that it's because of this community. And this community is happening around hashtags or forums or Discord servers and things like that. So it is very hard for you to have one source of truth to say, I will only look at this website. So today, my day is to do research on Twitter, X now, because that is the place where we can find most of this subject about.
Yeah, but I remember we had a small chat about it. You also set up a Discord, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also have my Discord server, the Three.JS Talk. This will be again a live. I'm talking to Nate, and we will start doing it again, hopefully in a weekly basis. So every Friday we will try to do it, because what we can feel, despite having like guests to interview, we have some knowledge that can help other people. So if we open the discussion and we just talk about like we are doing here, and then we can like get a question, help someone. This will help others over time. So hopefully this will be something. So it is. But I have this Three.JS Discord server, which I try to help people. But to be honest, I haven't been that much active on my own server. But I have people there that are helping others, and that is amazing. That is the powerful of the community. The Three.JS has a lot of servers, like the official Three.JS server, which is very good. The forum, we
Yeah.
have Bruno Simon forum. Both the open and the closed one for the students are also great. The Poemenders community from React 3 Fiber and React. All of those guys, they are like amazing, helping people, helping all of us.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting part for the community, for the Three.JS, and for the development software engineering also. People in engineering more, they're ready to help without any hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
Like my knowledge is your knowledge because it's an open source. Eventually, everyone started from scratch. We all understand that there will be people who might not know something, and for that we have these guys who knows a lot of stuff and are ready to share. So people are eager to share their knowledge, and that's the best part of the community that I ever seen in my life. I'd never seen such kind of thing in business development. Maybe they had something related, or in marketing. But in software engineering, it hits differently. Like people are more respectfully ready to help you, share their knowledge. I mean, look at you. Like you're doing, you had a YouTube channel, you had a Discord channel, you're contributing to React Fiber and Three.JS also. And you're answering the questions on Twitter. I mean, I remember dozens of times when we started to chit chat in YouTube or in X about some features, and it's the perfect part of the community. So I guess, the community, the discussion will be the key for jumping into the industry. Doesn't matter it's a Three.JS or it's something else. I believe in all communities there will be some kind of groups or hashtags or Discord servers that will eventually help you to come to that point where you feel that you are already ready to do some big things, like from here.
Exactly. So this one, like just one small note, like when I started all this journey, I had said something to me saying like someday maybe I will have a project on Three.JS homepage if I eventually get some success and could do something that can call attention. And then like 3 years later, I have four projects on this homepage, and I'm so glad to the universe, like to everyone that helped me to learn everything that I learned. And that's why I share everything that I can, because even if people copy my code and use the exact same code, I still feel that I'm learning because they are doing something with the things that I've done that if I keep it to myself, this will end, this will die, this will vanish. So we need to make it like real. We need to make it
Yep.
something that people can actually use. And that is the most exciting part of being a developer. Because when I was doing like 3D stuff on the 3D software, beautiful. I create this 3D render. It is just a render. It is an image or a video. Nobody can touch it. Nobody can interact. So what's the point? I have a bunch of 3D things that I've done. Nobody saw that. Now I'm turning them into websites so people can actually use it. And that is the beautiful part of sharing knowledge and sharing code. Yeah, I agree with you. That is the future. And that is why it is so engaging to work with this industry.
And my last question for you today, what will be your message for the world, to the world?
Be kind with people. Like we already have so many difficult things happening in the world. Just remember to be kind. Like even when people are not so kind with you, try to remember that maybe they have something inside them that are causing that, but in the source, just be kind with people. We need kindness. Like sometimes we see this even in this industry of technology that is like so like welcoming, but we see sometimes fights that we don't need. We don't need. Like we need love and we need kindness. So please be kind. That is my message. And one thing that I learned through my meditation process, everything will always change. Like I'm facing like this life change for like fourth time in my life. Everything is going upside down in my personal life and in my career, to be honest. But again, this is a normal and a natural process of life. Everything will change. Nothing stays the same. So that is those two. Be kind and remember everything is always changing. And that is not always bad.
Wow. Yeah, there's a saying that everyone in this world, every person has its own fight inside. And being kind is just a small thing that you can do because you'll never know what kind of, well, what's going on inside of that person, what kind of work is going on there. And especially, doesn't matter it's in engineering or something else, but as we are engineers, we know how stressful can be some days. Like you can be ferocious, like furious inside, but you have to keep you calm because as Master Jedi said, this is the way.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah, man, totally.
thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your support. It means a lot to me. I learn a lot of stuff from your videos, from your content, and I'm always looking forward, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure. Let's do it more times when we can. Like I'm always here. Like as soon as I have health and blood in my veins, you can count on me.
Okay, then we'll definitely do the part 2.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Amazing. I'm in.
Amen. See you soon, my friend. Have a good one.
See you, man. For you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.